Hello and welcome to Crushing Comics. This is the comics review podcast from the Comic Crush. I am Ben Riley. With me is Felicia Hardy.
Hello.
Hello. Also known as Liz and Paul. If you can guess which is which, you get a biscuit. This week on the show, our second episode of season 2, we have a variety of books for you. Not many this week, Liz. This is a very quiet week.
Yeah, it was a bit. But
Not a lot of,
I mean,
not
a lot of new stuff. I guess there's a lot of like just the ongoing books, but
it feels weird to me because it feels like the normally January is the quiet month, but it feels like because of the various COVID delays and shipping delays, the quiet month has actually been moved to February. I mean, although my list never really seems to get any smaller, unfortunately.
No,
I wish it
still
did.
No shortage, but
no, that's the thing. It's never any. It never ends, and especially if you're addicted like the way we are. However, we have whittled it down just to a couple of books this week. We are going to be talking about these books. If I can just bring them up for you, give me 1 second. We are going to be talking about, we're trying images this week, we'll see if it works. So we're going to be talking about Suicide Squad Blaze #1. We are going to be talking about Secret X-Men #1, and we are going to be talking about Land of the Living Gods #1. So we hope you're going to enjoy the show. Hello to everyone listening on the podcast and everyone watching.
Hello.
It's good to have you on. If you are watching, it might be best for you to go sort of full screen for us. I mean, I know no one needs to see my face any larger than this, if at all, really. But if you go full screen, you might get a better sense of some of the images. Although I couldn't find a great deal of images for some of the comics this week. So
I mean,
all I can say is publishers, get more images out there because, to piracy be damned. We want to sell your books. What book should we start with, Liz? What would you fancy talking about first?
I don't know. What are you feeling, Paul? Now, full disclosure, I've only read 2 of these books. I read Secret X-Men and Suicide Squad Blaze.
I have indeed read those 2.
But I didn't get a chance to read the other one, unfortunately.
No, as you say, it was a hot book, Land of the Living Gods.
Yeah, very, very hotly tipped.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the creators or I don't know, the print run or what, really.
We had customers buying like 5 copies at a time, which we don't normally allow. So, that's what it was a little bit of that speculation going on with that.
The delivery was somewhat late. Gosh, I didn't get all the delivery going in straight away on the Tuesday. So this came in, I think, very late on Wednesday afternoon. So I didn't pick up a copy until Friday when I happened to be working. And I was surprised to get a copy because it's going for silly money online. Not stupid money, but just it's expensive in comparison, for a $5 book.
Right.
It's going for something along, twice that price already. But yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. Let's talk about Suicide Squad Blaze first of all. Now, this is from Cy Spurrier and Aaron Campbell, who successfully kind of shepherded John Constantine through his most recent adventures.
Which is supposed to be an excellent run. I actually really want to read that. And it's been a while since I read like a Hellblazer book.
Yeah, I'm slowly, I've just begun picking up the large form, the big trades of the earlier stuff, the Vertigo stuff. This also has colours by Jordi Belair and letters by Aditya Vidikar, who seems to be one of the hardest working letterers in comics today. His name is on a ton of books, and he works with a lot of UK creators. So quick synopsis for you. Suicide Squad Blaze #1. The attacks begin without warning, brutal, sudden, cannibalistic. A metahuman with all the power of Superman, but none of his humanity. An unstoppable being ruled by hunger and instinct, striking at random across the world. To stop this threat, Harley Quinn, Peacemaker, Captain Boomerang, and King Shark have been assigned to corral, nursemaid, and if necessary, execute 5 deadly new recruits, the expendable products of a secret government procedure called Blaze. They're ordinary prisoners endowed with incredible power in the certain knowledge that it will burn through them like wildfire. They have around 3 years to live maximum. If you're staring down life in prison, maybe that's a good deal, especially if you're Michael Van Zandt, desperate to reunite with a mad lover who forsook you after your Bonnie and Clyde crime spree. Now, that's all I'm going to say, because the next part of that, and I have actually changed that synopsis just a little to avoid a spoiler that comes towards the end of the book.
Right.
Now, I haven't read the Hellblazer run. As I said, I'm somewhat familiar with some of Si's work. I'm looking forward to his new book, which I can't remember the name of the artist on. I'm really sorry. But the book is called Step by Bloody Step, which, interestingly enough, is going to be a completely silent book. I don't know if you've heard about this.
No.
It's from Image. So the book is, as I understand, is going to be sans dialogue, sans sound effects.
That's cool.
And it's just going to, and indeed, perhaps even sans captions. It's just going to be images only. I'm quite, you have to wonder what the role of the writer becomes then in that. But I'm sure he shepherded the thing through. He's a talented
story,
writer.
all of that, But it is an interesting sort of premise, but I think with the right artist, with the right team, it could be done very successfully. Like we talked not too long ago about Righteous Thirst for Vengeance, the Rick Remender book. Which, even though it's not silent, it's very sparing in terms of dialogue and caption, and it's actually really mostly reliant on the visual storytelling, and that's a great book.
And speaking of visuals, let's just take a look here at some of the stuff that's in the Suicide Squad book. There we go. I hope you guys can see that. The kind of light and shading that Geordie's getting there and that Aaron's getting are fantastic. And it starts with a kind of almost red herring super being landing that you feel they're not going to do anything with. But of course, they then come back to this a bit later because this is the thing that's being used to give ordinary people superpowers. And interestingly enough, we start with a very movie-centric team of Peacekeeper, King Shark, Harley, and Captain Boomerang. And they are the film versions. I mean, they're definitely the film versions, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
there's no getting around it. And it does kind of, for all intents and purposes, feel like a special, like a TV special done for in a good way, like a Marvel one shot almost done for the Suicide Squad movie. And I like the idea that Waller would actually be desperate enough to offer these guys superpowers, which of course they all, to their credit, they all kind of turned down. Just
right.
Like, nope,
no,
I'm not doing that. But we also get this guy, Michael Van Zandt, who is kind of sucked in by the promise of being reunited with his lost lover. I really liked that element of it.
For like a great portion of the book, we actually don't know who our narrator is.
Which is sorry.
Until about, I don't know, at least a third of the way through, I would say.
Yeah, and the thing I like about that is the fact that it's really using the sort of 48-page scope that a book like this gives you. Obviously done in your preferred comic size, Liz, extra large. I know you love a really big comic. I know you love trying to store those really big comics, right?
No, not actually my preferred format. However, I do have to say that in this case, the art, is definitely serviced by the format. It's because I can't say that I'm familiar with Aaron Campbell as an artist, but I mean, he's really good.
Yes.
You know,
very
it's
much.
this very kind of realistic, gritty style. And you know, for sure, you know, I think having big pages to show it off, you know, is not a bad thing.
His images are very much kind of Michael Lark in almost. Do you not think like there's the certain
I
Michael
can
Lark
see a bit of that. Yeah.
And then if we look, oh, sorry, that's the wrong comic. Sorry, guys, first time using the sort of slides function, so it's going to be a bit bumpy tonight. You know, I really like the stuff he's getting, and even things like that, which is kind of the end paper of the book, is really nice, and that is very much the Suicide Squad as directed by James Gunn. But yeah, like you can see from this, he's really kind of like he's shading, and you know the stuff that Geordie's doing is just absolutely fantastic. Did you enjoy the book?
I did. You know, I really, you know, I can't say that it's, you know, I'm a regular Suicide Squad reader, but as you said, this is so accessible because it is the movie team, and the premise is just, you know, it's simple but great. You know, and you know, there was just a lot to enjoy about it. You know, Cy Spurrier, he's a great writer. I really like just some of the little storytelling, you know, details and techniques, like, you know, that whole big opening sequence where we're introduced to, you know, the you know, as your synopsis sort of described it, like the sort of anti-Superman, you know, powered villain that has been sort of hunting regular citizens. And you know, there were some great little storytelling techniques in there, like, you know, there's like a couple of pages where you see, you know, people all, you know, all over the world, like you know, and he kind of comments that a lot of them are, you know, people that nobody would notice go missing, and you know, might not even get reported. And the way, you know, he kind of lays out, you know, kind of images of them just going about their business, and then the next page is them disappearing from the same, you know, like obviously being just plucked out of, you know, from above. You know, it's just really clever, you know.
I mean, there is that sense that you're dealing with a superpowered serial killer, which is something we have seen before in things like it's very prevalent in J. Michael Straczynski's redo of Supreme Power from the early 2000s, which is a superb book and sort of drifts in and out of print all the time. When it comes into print, I would advise you to pick up. It's usually done for some strange reason in 3 separate volumes rather than just one volume of the 18 issues that it covers. But there is a superpowered killer in that.
And this is like,
sorry, go on.
Oh, I was going to say, and in this case, this almost seems to be a being driven by instinct, and you know, almost more of a predator than a, you know, sort of, you know, evil Superman per se.
Yeah. I wonder if it's something Kryptonian, given.
I mean, there are a lot of at the beginning we basically have Superman landing in Kansas, except not, you know.
Yeah, and also the thing is, we see a beleaguered Superman actually under attack from the press, which is an interesting kind of direction to take it in. I quite like that moment where Wonder Woman's actually kind of having to step in between him and the press and kind of defend him almost.
Yeah, because everyone's demanding, why haven't you done something about this?
But also it shows the trouble of having, you know, gods flying around. You know, that's the problem with you start to rely on them. I can't remember what the book was. It might have been Astro City or something like that, where they talk about how things like city planning takes a dive because they start kind of going a bit sloppy on building regulations because they know there are super people there to save the day if something collapses or burns down, or, you know, And there would be, I think, a sort of concentric ripple effect of having beings like that in the world, and it's interesting that it kind of it analyzes that stuff, and they managed to squeeze in, as it appears all Black Label books must. They managed to squeeze in a Batman appearance too.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you get your Trinity.
Yeah, basically. Just a little differently than you were expecting.
Exactly, yeah, and none of them are being very effective, against the threat.
I love the little character details as well. Nanawe just, can I call my mom? Yeah, I loved it. Just being a complete baby and just the sort of coping mechanisms. I'm not a mindless predator.
Oh, that was great.
I'm a good boy. There are some great moments in this, and it is as sort of bloody and as violent as you'd expect from something called the Suicide Squad. And I actually think some of the Suicide Squad books have been a bit not toothless, but slightly tampered down. Because
I think that being Black Label, they can go there. Where like a mainstream Suicide Squad book can't really go there, at least at least to the places this one does, because the violence is it's very visceral, and also the language, they right away you're in a Black Label book because they're swearing left and right, and it's just sex and everything, and I think it really, Suicide Squad is definitely, definitely Black Label, fodder.
And I think the sort of nominal kind of female, not lead of the book, but the kind of
love
other
interest.
Half of the love interest is going to be a problem. Like I think she's gonna be a real problem, because if you look at the way she kind of uses that poor guy,
yeah
in the shower, it was just like, yeah, okay,
yeah,
you're just,
and I mean,
you're just a sucker.
Yeah, she seems to know, or she just seems to be kind of quite happy to use the people around her, and he sort of says that's her superpower is being able to convince people to do things. Even obviously it's not a superpower, but it's,
or is it?
Well, or is it? Yeah. But and she also she manipulates Harley into attacking her because she doesn't want to be paired with her.
Yeah.
She's a manipulator.
So it's an interesting kind of dynamic to throw into people who are crazy, really.
Well, they all wound up, in prison for a reason,
Yeah. Well, I think the sanest ones there are Michael Van Zandt and Nanawe, really, because they're the ones who seem completely aware of what they are,
right,
and happy with it in a way, and I like Michael's whole thing of no, I don't want to do this because I'm really working on myself. I'm trying to pay my debt and.
Right, but then as soon as the woman he's in love with, gets involved, then he throws all that out the window and decides to chase after her instead.
I wonder if he's named after. There's a big kind of cult amongst comic creators, it seems, for the film Heat, and that features a character called Roger Van Zandt, and I wonder if that's a kind of nod to that character. I'd be interested to know.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you had any idea if those were established characters in any way, or if they were.
I've genuinely no idea. I'm curious about the superpowered guy that causes the accident that puts Van Zandt in prison.
Right.
Because I'm not sure if those are established characters. I mean, I think the trouble with something like Suicide Squad is you have to have characters who are going to die.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some of the runs you've looked at where straight away you can just pick them out from the beginning and go, oh, they're going to die. They're going to die. They're going to die straight off. And so it loses stakes. But all in all, like I think so far from what I've read, I mean, with the Black Label stuff, the strongest ones I've read were Wonder Woman, Dead Earth, and the one I'm enjoying the most, which is Get Joker, which has been a great. I don't know if you've looked at any of that.
I haven't.
It's weird because it seems to have disappeared from the shelves, and we seem well overdue for a third issue. And I hope it hasn't just kind of slipped by me and I've missed it, because I brought the first two.
Yeah, who's writing that? Is that?
Oh man, so I've got to try and remember now. See, that's the trouble with the bi-monthly shipping stuff on the Black Label books is I can't remember who created it from one month to the other. Right. So sorry to the creative team behind Suicide Squad Get Joker. But this you can get. This is kind of widely available, being a sort of book from the big two. It is widely available everywhere, and you should be able to pick it up now. There's some nice variants for this as well, which I didn't pick up. I looked at my comic spend this week rather, and was just like, oh man, I've got to put the variant back. It's already an expensive book at $7.
Yeah.
Although you're getting a lot of
books. Like usually the theme with the Black Label stuff.
Yeah. Although you're getting a lot of book for that money, I think that it was a bit pricey. So, or a bit pricey for my blood this week. So, do you want to move on to X-Men, Liz? I know you're chomping a bit to talk about the X-Men.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, but just final word on the Suicide Squad.
Sure.
Boys. I really did enjoy it a lot. I actually, I'll definitely be picking up the next issue. And I think it's probably a book that I didn't expect to enjoy anywhere near as much as I did. Because as I say, I like the Suicide Squad, but I don't normally buy it. But this will definitely be one that I pick up and possibly even buy the collected edition. So
yeah, I mean, I'm trying to slowly kind of read my Black Label singles so I can get rid of those and buy the collecteds for the ones I really like. To a certain degree, I've enjoyed them all so far, but not really read a ton of. So let's move on to the X-Men. This is Secret X-Men, written by Teenie Howard, drawn by Francisco Mobili. It has, sorry, I've got to find the cover page. It has coloring by Jesus Abartov, Jesus Abartov, and letters by VC's Clayton Cowles. Quick synopsis for you. It's the X-Men. When the Shi'ar Empire faces an unexpected threat, they must call upon the X-Men. Team co-captains Sunspot and Cannibal must lead Marrow, Tempo, Forge, Banshee, Strong Guy, Armor, and Boom Boom on a secret mission to save the Empress Xandra. But wait, aren't those the X-Men? Aren't those the mutants who lost the election? Now, Liz, this is kind of following on, I guess, from the Hellfire Gala?
Hellfire Gala.
Right, where there was a vote to
so there was a fan vote, actually. So right. I mean, they basically the Hellfire, they were assembling the new roster of the current X-Men team, and as part of that, they actually put a vote to fans, to choose one final member of the team, and they chose Polaris.
Right.
So these were all the runners up, and none of them made the final cut. So
right.
They are non-X-Men who, really, really wanted to be on the team, but did not make the cut.
I mean, all I could say, guys, is the last time things were put to a fan vote, Robin died.
Yep. R.I.P. Jason. I mean, I'm sure there have been fan votes in between, but
yeah,
not as memorable as that one.
I have really mixed feelings about letting the fans decide what's going to be what, to be brutally honest. I think I've kind of said that before in a few things, although there's lots of things we can get into. There's lots of ins and outs in it. Looking at things like the Snyder Cut, where it seemed to work to the benefit of what people actually genuinely did want. It seemed, regardless of whether you or I think that was the right decision.
I mean, yeah, the internet has certainly changed the game, in terms of like people, making their, desires clear. So I mean, I think there's nothing wrong with making a thing interactive, because it does engage fans. It's just to what degree do you want to do that? Yeah. Because this is an anomaly, I think it's fine. But if it became the norm to let the fans decide, then
yeah, that would be a bit of a problem. And also, I think I remember the days when, I'm going to sound like an old man here because that's what I am, but I remember the days when if you didn't want to see something, you just stopped buying it. And that was how you voted. But hey, there you go. I always thought that's what the letter pages were for. But anyway, so Secret X-Men, which seems to kick off simply because Sunspot wants to get laid.
Sort of. Well,
and thinks he's going to be in the middle of a threesome, but is in fact kind of co-opted into being the bodyguard for the Shi'ar Empress. I thought the kind of setup was fun.
Yeah.
So he wants to get some. He says he's the leader of the X-Men.
Right. And then
backfires spectacularly on him. Wow. And I did like the little Grace Note moment of when he's trying to assemble the team, and to me, my X-Men.
Right.
I loved it. So there's lots to like about this. Even for a non-X-Men fan like me. Go on. I mean, you're the X-reader.
Well, I mean, I think it's a pretty simple setup, really. It's they're all the rejects who didn't get to be in the X-Men, and now they get to form their own team, and they're given a secret mission, first by Deathbird, and then basically given the same mission by Gladiator.
But coming from a slightly different angle, yeah.
Yeah, well, the Gladiator, he doesn't he just knows that the Empress is missing, and he doesn't know that they've actually, Deathbird and the precogs, have sort of helped disappear the Empress because of the threat on her life, which that turns out to be different to what we kind of everything sort of ended up being a little bit more machinations by the Empress herself, by the time we get to the end, but yeah.
There's Sunspot putting his team together, or at least trying to put his team together, which is quite typically done by not telling people he's actually putting a team together. I quite liked a lot of these beats. I mean, how about you? How did you feel about it?
Yeah, you just get it's giving you a sense of the characters, because not everyone's going to be familiar with quite a lot of this roster, or if you're a casual X-Men reader, you might not know who a lot of them are. I mean, even I'm not familiar with every single one of them, so I think, this sort of exists to, to help you get to know them through Sunspot, and they're all very likable in their own ways. And so it's introducing you to them, to their powers, to their dynamics together. And, instead of, one of the things that was kind of notable about, none of them being selected as members of the main X-Men team is the fact that none of them, held it against Polaris. None of them, became jealous, or, they all stuck together, and, and that's what kind of keeps them wanting to work together through this.
Even reading it, as a casual X-Men reader, in fact, not even really a casual X-Men reader, just
a
very occasional X-Men reader. You could tell it's an X-Men book straight away, even, disregarding the costumes and the characters, because, conventional wisdom says no more than about 24 words per word balloon. I counted one of the word balloons in this, and it had something like 54 words in it.
It's dense. It is very dense.
It is dense. There's a lot going on. And there's like 30 characters and lots of standing around and talking. It's definitely an X-Men book. But it's good that Tini Howard is leaning into what people like in X-Men books, and regardless of whether I like it, and I think it's a well done book.
It's a one shot. It's fun. It's an introduction to a team that I think we're going to see more of for sure.
Yeah, it's quite. Oh, is it a one shot? I thought this was going to be the new series.
I think it's basically going to be.
Oh, indeed, published as a one shot. There you go.
Yeah, it's gonna be a team that we're gonna become familiar with. I don't know, what books they're gonna feature in, but I have the feeling coming up to this whole Avengers versus X-Men versus Eternals thing, they're gonna function probably below the radar because they're a secret team.
Hickman versus Gillen. Versus Aaron.
Sounds awesome.
I stay away from Marvel events like crazy just because they tend to be overwrought, both story-wise and financially. And I don't need that negativity in my life. I much prefer to read them as Panini collected editions for half the price that Marvel charge for them. But again, it's an event I'll gladly avoid. I make no qualitative judgments about the book because of that. I thought it was an entertaining book, and I had fun reading it. I find that these days, you know what, Liz, I'm leaning much more into the visual elements of the storytelling than I am the obviously written elements. As you were saying, direction, storyline, all that stuff is important from the writer. And I'm not trying to disregard the writer's input at all because, when I think of comics, I like a lot of people, I think of writers first, That's the kind of Alan Moore syndrome that I think we've kind of all grown up with coming from the 80s and the 90s and stuff. But just in the last few years, I think I've leaned towards more. What I like is less words, more images. And in fact, I found some stuff recently, like the Eternals by Kirby, and again, great artist, but like it was just like, oh god, I wish I could just lean more into the visual elements of this, which are great, rather than the text and dialogue, which I think is actually slowing it down.
Well, I mean, there's like, something to be said for that. Like, sometimes when I read older stuff like that, and and I'm just trying to if I'm in a bit of a hurry to read it, a lot of times I can skip over like the text boxes and just read the dialogue, and because a lot of times you don't need that. No, sometimes you really don't. Like older stuff, don't knock it, dude.
Yeah, I mean, true. I could, for example,
a lot of times it's like a summary of what you're watching.
Yeah,
and I don't need it.
Again, I'm not knocking Tini Howard's ability to write a comic at all by saying this. I think it's a well-written comic. I think there's a lot of dialogue. There's a lot of dialogue.
Well, yeah, in this instance, there's a lot of dialogue. And it's, it's characterization, it's familiarizing you with their personalities and stuff. So I get the function of it in this instance. It was probably like it's more dialogue than I think you would need, for like a full series.
And also, I will say, it's like this isn't a controlled kind of sampling for me of Tini Howard's work because I haven't read enough of it to know her as a writer. So, what difference does my opinion make? None, really. She's obviously a good writer who gets hired to write comics. No one's hiring me to write comics. So,
right. Yeah, no, I like her. I like Tini Howard. I think she's
I don't know enough of her work. So
right.
I'm being a bit, I think I'm what it is I've hit a week where where the kind of more wordy storytelling has kind of bugged me more, and in general, because I think also I'm trying to get through a lot of comics at the moment. So,
right,
I'm trying to catch up on several years of Moon Knight, and in the space of a few days, it's,
fair enough.
You're really kind of having to pound it. Overall, like this, would you recommend this?
I would recommend. It's what I think is nice about it too is that actually it's bringing the Shi'ar back into it, because they haven't really played a big role in sort of the post Hickman era yet, and I think this sort of alliance, because this team essentially is going to function in secret under Empress Xandra, who is the daughter of Professor X, and the late Lilandra. Basically it's another Xavier leading a team of X-Men, but in secret, without consulting her dad. So it's going to be interesting to see what that means for this potential battle between the X-Men, the Eternals, and the Avengers. So having the Shi'ar on side working with the X-Men could really come in handy in some big intergalactic battle.
Be interesting to see if they side with the Eternals, though. I mean, given the cosmic nature of who the Eternals are and where they're from, and the things like the Celestials. But again, I'm talking out of my backside because I just don't know enough about any of those characters. So I am working my way through some Eternals stuff, with the Neil Gaiman Eternals being next on my list. So let's talk about the last book tonight, Land of the Living Gods. Now this you haven't read, so I'll just get through it as quickly as possible. This is from Aftershock Comics, hot tipped book for the week. It's a nice looking book. I'll just give you a quick rundown of who the creators are and what it's about. So the writer is Isaac, I hope I pronounced this correctly, Mogajane, and the artist is Santos. The letters are by Dave Sharp. So this book, I'll give you a quick rundown. It is said that when the world dies, the spirits of the first people will return to witness the last days of humanity. Well, the spirits have arrived and the end is here, but not everyone has given up hope. Naledi, a teenage girl living in the deserted city once called Johannesburg, has always believed that there is a land hidden away in a time where the gods still live, and where there are gods, where there are gods, there are miracles, perhaps even miracles that are big enough to save our dying planet. And so, after a lifetime of isolation, Naledi will head out into the unknown with little to hold on to but her faith and her magical pet plant, Buyo. So that pretty much sums it up. It is in a kind of quasi-post-apocalyptic world where there's very little plant life. So it's a bit kind of like Interstellar, where they've had that kind of blight thing, and plant life is dying out. And rest assured that will be one of the things that kills humanity eventually. Once plant life and bees especially are a big worry. I do find myself randomly worrying about that sort of stuff. And Johannesburg has become a sort of quasi-magical land where you're constantly kind of witness to ghosts stepping into situations from time to time, and people are kind of re-embracing old magic and things like that. Once again, as with new masters and primos last week, it's great to see fiction about other cultures and from creators from other cultures other than Western sort of influences. I really enjoyed this. I think it has a really interesting pitch, and it's a really kind of different way to do a post-apocalyptic universe. I'm going to try and show you some images from it. I don't have many, unfortunately. I couldn't get many images from it. So I'll just bring those up for you now. For those of you watching on video, there you go. I mean, it's kind of, it does feature action. There is a kind of futuristic techno landscape coming into the book as well. So you get a lot of kind of futuristic knickknacks and toys. And I think that as we move through the next few decades, we are going to be very much embracing technology to save our lives. How that's going to happen, I don't know. I wish I had the kind of wherewithal to keep up with technology now, and I don't. Like, I just don't. I think I've reached an age, and I don't know if you feel this way. You're a bit younger than I am, so probably not. But I've reached an age where technology has moved past my comprehension to a certain degree.
I mean, I don't know. I think there's like stuff that I guess might be, but I mean, nothing that I don't feel like I could learn if I wanted to. I don't know.
Sure.
I mean, what are you talking about?
Well, I just think that in terms of the wider world, I think that technology is going to surpass my understanding of it to a certain degree. There are some things now that I scratch my heads over, but I think that the kind of wider landscape of the world is going to change sufficiently. In one sense, it's not moving fast enough. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think we've moved as far ahead as I would have liked yet. I think that's the Tomorrow's World syndrome. I mean, in the UK in the late 70s and 80s, Liz, there was a program called Tomorrow's World, which would highlight new technologies and emerging technologies. And you would never see any of those bloody things ever reach sort of public consumption level. But they were fascinating. And it was just like, I think there's an element of kind of constantly being disappointed by what technology can't do, even though we're walking around with effectively computers that are more powerful than our home computers in our pockets every day.
Right.
And a lot of the focus is on technological abuse, how we abuse technology, how technology is used to abuse us. However, I think there is another thing that we're not really looking at, and that's how we're going to live with technology. Because, information is out there and it's a super weird substance, and information is reaching a point where it is surpassing humanity. So it is growing faster than we are. And it's its own life form now almost. And I think there needs to be some addressing of that. And at what point does information move past us? And at what point does technology decide that actually the most unnecessary component in the world is actually humanity? Because I'm already there. I think humanity is almost entirely unnecessary. I used to say to do you remember Rossetti, who we used to work with from time to time at Orville? I used to say to her, if I ever get into some sort of nuclear command bunker, you can just kiss it all goodbye, because we're all going down. I'll just get rid of it all, because I actually think you need a huge reset on an almost galactic scale at this point. I think our tiny little planet has gone out of control. But I think it's nice to see stories about people fighting for humanity. Sorry, I know I've gone on a big rant there, but I actually think it's fascinating to see people in stories fighting for humanity. And this is a book that, although it resides in the future, leans back into the past. It relies on ghosts and spirits and gods and things that we just don't believe in right now. Also, I find it interesting that in our fiction at the moment, there's an awful lot of ontological kind of growth. I think that we're relying on the ideas of gods and what gods will do and what they are for a lot of our fiction. And we've seen it in like a couple of books in the last week. It's in this book. Like, I don't know where this is coming from.
Well, I mean, it's a timeless, sort of trope.
Sure. Are we? But I wonder if, as a society, we're going to start moving back to a, as technology moves forward, will humanity move back to a kind of more spiritual age? I don't know. I doubt it, because I have, again, my own views on humanity, and they're not very positive.
Well, I mean, I just think, it's possible, I mean, in terms of like, religion, I don't know about that, but spirituality, maybe.
Yeah, sure. I'm not a big fan of organized religion personally, but yeah, I don't know. I think this book starts to address that. I'm sorry, I've gone way off base with this book, but I
haven't read it, so yeah. I don't know how much of what you're saying is.
If you get a chance to buy any of the copies left after people have come in and brought 5 at a time, which is just pure speculator.
Oh yeah, I mean, normally we do, and I'll just say this, we do limit copies. Normally, of hot tipped books, because we want as many people to be able to read them as possible,
Yeah. And that's going to be the key to the book ultimately surviving. I think it isn't going to be, Johnny Smoggs buying 5 copies and selling them to you on eBay for 15 quid or 20 quid a time. But yeah, I like this. It's an interesting book. I think, I don't know if I'm going to trade weight or carry on yet. I think I want to give it another read and see how I feel about it. Remember, obviously, some of the books that we talk about this week will be available in the web shop, which the link is in the description for. Also in the description, funny enough, is a link for the Patreon. I do want to address, kind of just going off of what we were talking about last week, the cost of the website and doing this stuff and the comics and everything. So I did my first year's taxes, which was a painful thing. But the first year the website cost about $2,500 to $3,000, something like that. All told, with all the costs of setting it up and all that, which it isn't drastically expensive. But I'd like to expand the amount of content we put out and the amount of stuff that you see and the types of comics that you see on there. And the only way to do that is with, unfortunately, support from the public in general. So if you're watching this and you want to commit to the Patreon, please do. It starts at £2 a month. You get stuff for that. We are a bit behind on updating the Patreon stuff. There will be more stuff coming. So Liz and I will be recording some little video specials, and I'm sure some of the other people I have on will be doing stuff as well. And it kind of goes up in tiers. Yes, it does take me a bit of time, and the reason why everything takes me so long is because I am just one person, and I'm trying to put out a staggering amount of content for compared to the amount of time I have. So I hope some of you will consider supporting that, because, as much as people say money can't buy you time, it actually can, because it's how you get to spend that time. where you get to apply that energy. And I think that's kind of the real difference. So I do want to say thank you to our newest patron, Gervais Lorraine, who we actually know from our days at Orwell. He's a lovely guy. And I'm really kind of pleased to have him on board as a patron. Thank you. The stuff actually at the Patreon level you are at, Gervais, should be on sometime next week. Again, it's just finding the time to get that stuff done. But yeah, if you want to sign up, please sign up. I want to say thank you to all our patrons, because we really, really cannot do it without you. It is critical that you're there, and because it is mostly people I know at this point. Still, I do have to say, I am genuinely touched by the support, like absolutely genuinely touched by the support. Now, I think that's it from us. Got anything else you want to say? I do want to recommend Moon Knight by Bendis and Maleev, which I read. Sorry, no visuals for this one. You might just be able to see it there. I
was thrilled to see that back in print. That it came out last week, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, and we were already sold out at that C. We got a big stack of them, and they went like hotcakes. That I read that back in the day when it was coming out, and I remember I really loved it. But it's been years. I'd really like to reread it. Of course, we've sold out of it, so I might have to wait. But yeah, I when you messaged me to say how much you were enjoying it, I was like, oh yeah, that was so good.
Yeah, I absolutely loved it. Do you know, it's one of those runs that until a couple of years ago I wasn't aware even existed. Like I didn't know, because this is post Daredevil, and it actually reintroduces Echo. She pops up and has quite a significant storyline, which I won't give away in this. It's a lot of fun. It's very different from something like I've read some really early Doug Munch. I hope I'm saying that name right. Munch and Bill Sienkiewicz, Moon Knight recently. It's radically different from that. It starts to play with the idea of the dissociative disorder that Mark Spector or Stephen Grant or Jake Lockley, because he doesn't know who he is suffering from. And it manifests itself in a very unique and interesting way. If you've not read this, I'm not going to give it away, because
but it's cool. It's really
it is really cool. And I think they kind of at least attempt to talk about some of that stuff. And then what is interesting is going into the Ellis Shalvey run that follows this, which was done I think about 2 years later. That, or a year later rather, that starts to pick up those threads even further. And that is quite interestingly written. And then I'm just about to start the Lemire run. I'm steamrolling through this stuff because it's good stuff.
Aren't they putting that back into print in like a sort of done in one collected thing, or
the Ellis Shelby stuff, for understandable reasons, it doesn't seem to be on the schedule for a reissue. The Lemire run does, and then the Bemis run is also being reissued, and I think by the end of April you'd have had all that stuff out. So yeah, it's all worth picking up so far. I'm, as I said, I'm not on the Bemis run. I'm literally just about to crack open the first page of the Lemire stuff. Which is probably some of the most visually interesting, and it is all visually interesting. I mean,
isn't it Greg Smallwood?
So it's Greg Smallwood, who I think might have been a holdover from the back end of the Ellis and Brian Wood stuff. There's some fascinating ideas in it. Unfortunately, I'm not sure. So I will be writing about the Bendis one on the site. I'm in two minds about whether to write about the Ellis Shelby run because of the creators involved. Sadly, I am, sorry, but it's just one of those things where it becomes a bit difficult difficult to talk about. However, we'll see about that. I'm definitely going to be writing about the Lamai run. Definitely going to be writing about the Bemis run. There is so much good stuff there that I think you can kind of get a good sampling of where Moon Knight's at and what they're going to use for the show. And of course, we will be talking about the comics more when we cover the Moon Knight show in a few weeks. So that those start. I don't know when we're going to do the first show. We've got to plan that out, Liz.
I'm not sure either, but we'll figure it out.
But yeah, so that's it from us. We've done nearly an hour tonight. It's been a pleasure talking to you all. I hope you've enjoyed hearing about and seeing, for those of you watching on video, seeing some of the books. You can buy them at Gosh Comics in the UK or from That's Entertainment in Massachusetts if you happen to be there. We hope you guys have a good weekend. Remember, this is our new time slot, Saturday evenings. The podcast version, sorry, bit delayed this week again. It's just finding the time. I've had to do a few extra days at the shop, so haven't really had a chance. But the podcast version is live now for last week's episode, and going forward, I would say Sunday nights at about 10 p.m. would be a good bet. That's probably when I'm going to have it up. So you'll get the podcast version, Spotify, Apple, and all the usual places on there. Guys, thanks very much for watching and listening. It is always a pleasure to be talking to you all, Liz. It's always a thin slice of heaven talking to you.
I know.
Very thin slice. A very thin slice. Minuscule, one would say.
But delicious.
Barely perceptible to the eye and the taste buds. A very, very thin slice. So have a great week, Liz. I'm sure you've got a lot of fun stuff planned for the week, and we'll catch up with you soon.
All right.
So, goodbye.